Alright, we're on. So let's see what we're going to do. We're going to talk about absolute value. Let's write it down first. Absolute value. Basically, absolute value is how far a number is away from 0. Alright, we're talking distances. So let's say 0 is right here. And here's a number line. Let's say 3 is out here. And -3 is right here. Just as far as pure distance, not direction, just as far as, just how far away from 0 is this number. Look, let's say 3. How many places do I have to walk? 1, 2, 3 places, right? Okay, so +3 is 3 places away from 0. What about -3? How many places is that away from 0? 3 places, okay? We don't say it's -3 places away from 0. We just say it's 3 places away. Or you could say inches or miles or feet or centimeters or whatever you want to use for a unit, I guess. But it's just 3 places away from 0. So when we talk about absolute value, it's how far a number is away from 0. We have a symbol. You've seen this since you're a little kid, probably, at least middle school, right? Absolute value. So here's the symbol for absolute value. It's just 2 bars on each side of the number. Put the number in between, and you got these 2 bars on the outside. You did this stuff in Algebra 2 anyway, didn't you? You probably even did it in Algebra 1. So this means the absolute value of 3, which means how far away from 0 is this? How many places away from 0 is 3? Talk to me. How many?
3.
It's just 3. Okay? It's just 3 places away. It has no, sign, really. I mean, I guess it is positive, but the sign doesn't matter. It's always 3 places away. Well, you could also do this. The absolute value of -3. The absolute value of -3 is what? How many places is -3 away? It's 3 places away. So notice, the absolute value always comes out positive. For some reason, some kids, they just think, oh, it just is the opposite, because they see the absolute value of -3 is +3, and people think, oh, absolute value means the opposite sign. Well, does it necessarily mean the opposite sign? Not in every case, does it? In this case it might, but in this case it's the same sign, isn't it? So if you think in your mind, how far away from 0 is that particular number, that's what absolute value actually is talking about. Make sense? Alright, so it doesn't matter which direction, it just means how far. That's what absolute value is talking about. Alright, so if we had something like this. Alright, so it's the absolute value of -3 minus 2. What we do is this. We work what's inside the absolute value. You don't take the absolute value until you have just one number inside that absolute value. Everybody with me on that? So you don't just take the absolute value of the individual numbers in here. What we do is we work the number first, and then we take the absolute value of it. So I'll keep it an absolute value. -3 minus 2 is -5. That's in the absolute value. The absolute value of -5 is +5. That's all there is to it. That's not too hard, is it? No? I think it's pretty easy. What if you had this? What if you had that? That's supposed to be an absolute value. That's kind of longer than that one, but there you go. You got a negative on the outside, and then you have a -8 inside the absolute value. So are you necessarily going to go negative times negative is positive? Remember yesterday we said we always like those, right, when they're right next to each other? But that's not what you do here. You always have to think of this as a parentheses. All right, as far as order of operations, consider it as one of the parentheses. So you do what's inside the absolute value first, and then you can apply stuff to the outside of it. All right, think of it just as the order of operations with parentheses. So this is just kind of floating out front. Remember we talked about that the other day? So this is just floating out front. And then we take the absolute value of -8. What's the absolute value of -8? It's just regular +8, isn't it? But where did this minus come from? Well, it came from here, didn't it? So that negative is right here, but the absolute value of -8 is just a regular +8. So really, what's the answer to this? It's -8, isn't it? So if you would have looked at it and said, oh, negative times negative is positive, so it's +8, it would have been wrong. Right? So the answer to this particular problem is -8. So it's what this is saying. When you have a negative out front like this, it's saying the opposite of. What's the opposite of the absolute value of -8? Well, the absolute value of -8 is 8. What's the opposite of 8? -8. We good? All right. That wasn't too hard. Let's see what else they have. They go through all this stuff about this definition. But I don't think I'm going to go through that. All right, here we go. Let's do one of these evaluate problems again. Plug and chug. Remember those? The ones that I always mess up on, especially with the fractions. Well, I don't mess up on it. I just don't read the instructions. I will on this one, though. So it says evaluate, and then it's 2x minus 3y. 2x minus 3y. That's in absolute value. So put the absolute value symbols right here. And they tell you what x and y is equal to. They say if x is equal to negative 6, and y is equal to 10, positive 10. So there's the problem right there. We'll do this one together, then I'll give you one that might look a little more difficult. You can try it on your own and see how it goes. So let's do this one together. So we're just going to plug and chug. Keep the absolute value right there. That's 2. What's that 2 and that x doing to each other? They're multiplying, so I put a parentheses here. So it's 2 times x, which is negative 6. Then put a minus sign, because you got a minus sign right here. And then you have a 3, and that 3 and that y are being multiplied times each other. So stick the 10 in for the y. Remember we said put an empty parentheses there when we taught this the other day? Alright. And then close up the absolute value. Now again, what do? You work what's inside the absolute value first. Don't look at this and say, oh, let's just make everything positive. No, you don't want to do that. Alright, sometimes it'll actually work, but sometimes it won't. So the best thing to do is work everything inside the absolute value first. Come up with a number, and at the very end, then you apply the absolute value. So let's do that. So there's the absolute value. 2 times negative 6 is negative 12. And this is minus 3 times 10, or negative 30. Everybody with me on that? Okay, so we do the multiplication first, and then we can do the subtraction. Again, follow an order of operations. Negative 12 minus 30 is negative, what's that, 42? Okay. Notice, I did everything inside the absolute value. Okay, I didn't even mess with the absolute value. I just kept those little bars on the outside. Now I can go ahead and apply the absolute value. What's the absolute value of negative 42?
42.
Positive 42, that's right. And there's your answer. Pretty simple, huh? It's really not much different. I mean, this is like just that much different than what we did yesterday. All right, just applying that absolute value symbol is all the new stuff is for today. Let me give you an example. I'll give you a few minutes to try it and see if you can get the right answer, okay? Are you up for the challenge? All right, so here we go. This is a little bit longer than the other one. Everybody's favorite, division, fraction, x, y. And the x and y are the same numbers, so it's negative 6 and 10. So x is negative 6 and y is 10. All right, go at it. See if you can get this. So it's 2 times the absolute value of x minus the absolute value of 3y over the absolute value of xy. All right, let's see how you did. Let's go through this. I won't ask what your answers are right now. We'll go through it and let's see if you get the same answers I do at the end. All right. So this is how I would do this. Tell you what, I'm tired of writing in the same color. Always have to remember to change colors. Let's go orange. We haven't gone orange yet, have we? So 2. Oh, look how pretty that is. All right. So 2 times the absolute value. Stick the x in. What are you laughing at? You don't think it's pretty color? 3 times y, which is 10. Close that, close that. That's how everybody's problem should be written so far. Don't forget the bottom though, right? Absolute value. It's x times y, so I'm going to put those in parentheses. So it's negative 6 times 10. Absolute value. Make those a little bit longer. All right, let's see what we got here. This thing right here, let's do this absolute value first. Remember we always do stuff in parentheses. What's the absolute value of negative 6? It's positive 6. We can do this in our head, can't we? Positive 6 times 2 is 12. That's positive 12. It's not going to be a negative 12, is it? Because we have to take the absolute value of negative 6. Put a minus right here. And then we do this stuff right here. 3 times 10 is 30. It's an absolute value, so it's just a regular 30. But why is there a minus there? Well, there's a minus there because of that minus right there. That has nothing to do with the absolute value, does it? We good? All right. Let's do the stuff inside of here. Let's do the stuff inside the absolute value first. Negative 6 times 10 is negative 60. But it's in absolute value. I think we can do that in our head without writing it down. What's the absolute value of negative 60? Just plain old 60. Very good. All right. So look at that. We got rid of all the absolute values. Now it's just basic stuff. So what's that? Negative, is that 18? Negative 18 over 60. Do we keep it like that?
No.
No. What do? Reduce it. What goes into both of those? 6. Okay, 6 goes into this how many times? 3 times. 6 goes into this 10 times. Does anything go into 3 and 10? Nope. Don't forget the negative. So what's my answer? Negative 3/10. Anybody get that? Who got that right? Raise your hand. High and proud. All right, very good. Good, 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 good. This is easy stuff. Don't you wish it was a little harder? Maybe a little challenge, a little more challenging? Careful what you wish for, okay? Because soon enough it'll be as challenging as you need it to be. All right, well that's it. So I'm going to give you a worksheet. So the worksheet is going to be section 1, 2, and that will be due tomorrow. All right, you should be able to do the whole thing tonight. All right, that's it.